Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Talk and Soon. Hope you're doing well today. So I hope you consider subscribing if you do like the content that you see in this video, and check out my channel for other content as well as link to other social medias that I have, okay, as well as my blog. So welcome to Talk and Soon. For this video I will be sharing things that could help you in your work in faith. Okay, so I find that one thing I've discovered as I grow older is that having faith in God is a very difficult thing, and as I try to draw closer, I find myself trying to I find myself doubting a little bit more, and as I draw closer and as I read more, I find myself questioning a lot more. And these are the things I discovered, that if people do not have a level of maturity in faith, they will really struggle, and sometimes these doubts can then lead to loss of faith. Okay, so I'll give you a bit of my journey in my faith, and then hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. I've also written about this in my blog channel, which you can check out, and I believe it is called God is a Biased God, and it talks about losing faith and some of the things that made me doubt or kind of lose faith in God. But that was one thing that I shared there, but there has been many things that has, I guess, made it difficult at times to continue keeping on as a Christian. And equally, if I can add, that your religious denomination will not help you in your faith with God. It's not about denomination actually, I discovered, but it's more or less your relationship. And I am a big believer that the faith in God is about building better relationship. It's not about how many books that you read. It's not about how much you spend praying. It's not about how whether you're a religious leader or not. It's not about any of those things and many more. But it comes down to relationship, and relationship in terms of making sure that you stay connected with the person that you choose to believe and the God that you choose to trust. Okay, so I will start with my own story, and then I'll share things I've learned along the way. Don't worry, we've been in this Christian journey for a long time. Okay, so I will start on how I started in my blog channel, where I spoke about the affirmation of faith, and I described faith as how St. Paul described it. It's about the hope that you have, and also the hope that you have and the belief that will happen. I think that's how it's summarized really in my own head, if I can remember correctly. So faith in God is something that is it has to be tested. You have to be tempted. You have to go through it to sustain in it. Okay, and this is why it makes sense that Jesus was tested first before he began his ministry. And Jesus was tested or tempted more or less because he was going to make a commitment, and this is where your faith trials and your faith journey comes in. You can be baptized either as a child or as an adult and be fine, and you can walk in your faith all freely and have no issues. But for the very first time you make a conscious commitment that you're going to follow the things that are advised in your book of God. I don't know, for me as a Christian is the Bible. So when you actually decide that you're going to make a commitment to follow those things, this is where your faith journey began. So Jesus going out into the desert to be and being led by the Holy Spirit was a preparation for what was to come. And that also is where you begin in your own journey in faith. You don't I mean, to me, I really learned that you really don't begin properly, consciously, until you've made that conscious commitment to say that you're going to do your best to follow what the Bible says and obey the ones that you can, and for the ones that you can't, I'll always say seek for the grace to do so. Okay, so my faith journey has began as a child, as I was born in a Christian home, and I don't know, I'll say I'll start from the age of 6-7 years old, if not 8, as this is when really I knew what God is about. Because at that age I started reading the Bible when we prayed in our family, as my mom would make it me, or I enjoyed it. It was me, it was like the fun thing about prayer. It was I got to read the Bible, and the key one that we read over and over again was Psalm 51, to which I crammed in my head. Okay, you can find more about those in my blog as I spoke about it there. So, and that Psalm 51 stuck in my head, that I even used to recite it without trying to read from the Bible or from the text. So as time went on, I always used to follow my mom to almost everywhere and anywhere that she goes, to be honest, and this includes crusades, whether and the thing is, when I was growing up, it wasn't just, I'm a Roman Catholic, sorry, but when I was growing up, it wasn't just that we went to just Roman Catholic, whilst that was our main place of service. When other churches or other denominations that my mom considered good had other things they were doing, we did go and worshipped there. We went to a lot of charismatics, charisms events and stuff like that, as my mom belonged to that. I followed her to pilgrimages, I followed her to apparitions and some things. So really, I followed my mom almost everywhere as she went. My sisters kind of had the option. Sometimes they chose to come, sometimes they didn't. And then we continued in that way. So I wouldn't say I was a perfect child. I had my own issues. But as time went on, obviously you develop in your faith, and my mom saw that I loved singing, and then she took me to join the church choir, and I was the youngest person in the church. I even got a nickname for it, which I'm not going to share, but it was very fun. I was looked after, I sang very well, and I was congratulated. I was able to pick up songs very quickly, and from there I began part of their youths, and again being the youngest in the youths. But then I didn't stay there for long, courtesy to my sister. You know who you are. Okay, so pretty much growing up, my faith journey was really good and positive, and I remember some of the things that happened in church, and it was strange. Some of them was things that were funny, and for me also it was a place of meeting my friends, because everyone went to the same church, so it was more or less a social gathering with faith in it, I guess, as I look back now. So I enjoyed my childhood growing up as a Christian, and I did all this, most of my growing up as a child was in Nigeria. Okay, and you're there is no place you would go, there is no Christian music playing. As the place I lived was predominantly Christians. There are other religions, and there are other people that don't believe, but everyone kind of got along. There was never an issue in my own eyes, at least looking at it as a child. Okay, so then moving on. Here we come over to Britain. So again, I continued in our faith, but this time when we first came to Britain, I think my mom found it difficult to, I don't know, she found it very difficult with the Catholic Church, to say. This is why the Catholic Church will not help you. Okay, she found it very difficult with the Catholic Church, especially the one that was around us, and she found it difficult not because she didn't believe or she wasn't a Catholic, but being someone that comes from a charismatic background and some very kind of prayerful, going to crusade and things like that, at the time that we came, it was almost like there was no warmth towards that we found anyways. So she we used to attend. Did we used to attend? No, most of the time we used to attend Catholic church on Sundays, but I can't even remember which ones again. But we attended different parishes to find a church, and this is one thing I'll encourage you. When you are a Roman Catholic and you cannot connect with your own parish, move around. I moved around a lot to find my own parish. I have a parish close to me, but I hardly go there. You find a church that you connect with, and that helps you, or a parish that you connect with, and that helps you have a foundation and a place to bounce off on in terms of helping the church and doing all those things that you do to support the church. So we went to a lot of we went to the church, but we more or less went to a lot of Pentecostal churches, and yeah, pretty much when we first came, that's where we landed. Mostly Pentecostal churches, really, and that's where we made most of our first years of coming to this England, to say. So there was a difficulty in connection, really, with the Catholic Church from my mom, I guess. And our parish priest then wasn't even the best, because let's be honest, he hardly preached the gospel. He literally spoke about his life and went, and he's not even spoke about his life connecting it to what was read in the day. He just told some random strange stories I didn't even understand, and that was it. So please, I really encourage you, if your parish priest is not meeting your target, my dear, just find another place, okay? Because you're not going to change them. But you can pray for them. As sometimes I felt like when I prayed before going to church, I felt like he preached a little bit, but then that was it. Anyways, so we moved around a lot in the church circle, from Pentecostal to Catholic, and just finding where you fit, really. And I'm quite glad that we did that, because it helped me to experience other denominations and how they worshipped and things like that. So, but as I grew older, I don't know what happened, but I kind of started dropping out from church. It just never really did interest me. I did attend, don't get me wrong, but it was more or less as a routine, more than as a form of worship. But then again, did I really know my faith then? Not really. But we just attended as per se, as normal. But at that time I was in university, and then because of the course I studied, which makes you question every single thing, I studied sociology and psychology, y'all. So that is a critical thinking subject. So a lot of doubt scripting, a bunch of doubt scripting. The doubts started even in college, actually, because that's what I studied in college as well. And then I came to, and there was other issues that happened in the family, and then I was like, where is this God kind of thing? But I came to a critical point where I made a declaration with my own mouth that God may be real, but he's not for me, and he's not for my family. You can find out again more about those declarations in my blog. Okay, I will put the link below. You can go to my channel, and where it says about, you can find a link to it as well. Okay, if you can find it in the description box. So and that declaration made me think God is a biased God, because like he blesses others and don't bless others. He does this, he keeps others and he doesn't keep others. Like literally he pick and chooses who he wishes to help, and maybe it's not for us, and maybe it's not for me. So that was my own declaration with my own mouth. And there were so many things that led to that as well when I was in college for me to make that. But good thing that I had family that were quite strong in their own faith, because whenever I brought out issues to which I wanted to challenge them on why God is not real or may not be for us, there was other counter arguments as to why he is real. So my auntie, my mom, they didn't even allow me breathe. Just whenever there was an issue of doubt in my mind, or I proclaimed doubt, there was advice, but it was done in a loving way, not like, oh, like there's some ways some Nigerians behave like that, that shut you down, not to shut me down. My mom never, that's why I love my mom in this regard. She never has shut me down from asking questions. Rather, she'll bring a counter argument, or she'll give example. Well, sometimes I know she's making up stories, but hey. So she'll bring a counter argument or an example, and so we went on that way. I mean, I still went to church and followed things, but it's just more or less like, let's just mark our attendance. Okay, so as time went on, then I went into university, and then I started getting a lot of questions. Now let me go back to college. In college, funny enough, even though I was having doubts in God, I was still one of those people that stood for the faith. As I remember, my physics teacher, people that went to school, college would know, we didn't get along very well because he was very insulting of the church. And I remember one day, like, I walked out of that classroom, like that created a little issue with us, both of us. And I was one of those people that always stood for this faith still. So for me, it was quite strange to find someone really speak ill against the church. And I didn't understand that. I cried about it. I was so angry, and I was this and so. And then that incident really led me to start thinking, like, seriously? I thought, because coming from an African mentality, you thought here was going to be more Christian predominant, or you're going to think it was more religious or something like that, because I guess the way they portray themselves outside of the country in the media. But none of those I found are true. So it was very strange. He had his own issues anyways. But then there was a Roman Catholic girl that was in my class that came out after the whole incident with the teacher and spoke with me and asked me if I'm a Roman Catholic, and I said to him, yes, because really the teacher was insulting the Pope, and that was my favorite Pope at that time. John Paul was there. I was mad. I was angry. Anyway, so yeah, Saint John Paul II, really someone want to insult. They never reach. Anyways, I was so annoyed at that. Anyways, that was me. And she came out and she spoke to me, and I came to realize now that it's like, because she's born here, she's English, she's white, she knows how the things go, and she's become probably desensitized from those kind of talks. So she gave me her own piece of advice and things like that. Life went on. Come into college, there was a lot of questions that was asked. There was a lot of questions that I got asked, because for some reason I was always the one that when people were talking about, this is the funny thing, even though I was doubting, but I still found myself being the one that was defending the faith, and that makes it quite strange. Because at that time, even because I studied sociology, I don't know, like every sociology and psychology, every single teacher, even in university, where all of them were atheists, and all of them were non-believers or pagans or something. So therefore, the church was their easy target every single time. And Ogechi was that one student that wasn't going to sit still and be nodding. She was going to open her mouth. But funny enough, in this situation, I still wasn't strong in my faith. I was still just part of like a passive goer kind of thing. But I still was defending the faith. I was still defending the church. I was still defending God. I was still defending really like Christianity. And was it that it's only me that was a Christian there? No, others kept quiet, and I wonder why I was the only ones doing this thing. But most of my classroom weren't Christians. Most of them were of other religious belief or non-believers. So therefore, I was like flagging the flagship for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why I couldn't keep my mouth quiet. We argued. Me and my lecturers, they know me. I was one of those people that I would raise my hand. I object. I object. I object. And you know, one thing I found then throughout this whole thing is that most of these people that like to criticize the church are quite hypocrites, because when it comes to other religion, who they know that can attack them physically back, their mouth is like, they will never speak anything about this. Or when they speak from a hypocritical or cowardly approach, and they try to show one stupid understanding out there, but you can see the evil and deceit in their eyes. Anyways, let's continue. Anyways, so therefore I was like, anyways, yeah, so continuing before I digress. Continuing, so One of the questions I remember in one of our seminars that one of the boys or my classmates asked me was this question. There was a lot of questions that were asked, but this one really got me. And that the question was, if God loved black people, why did he allow them to be enslaved? If God loved Africa, why did he allow slavery to happen to them? Yeah. At this point, I was quite taken back. I didn't answer that question. I didn't know how to answer the question. Another one was about healing, because I said to them, sometimes I will pray and any issue that will happen to me will stop. And so they challenged me on that as well. I didn't realize that people were listening to what I said. Come another lecture when I was talking about, oh, I went to the doctor and things. Oh, come and see how the entire class looked into me. I thought you said you would pray and things will help. I was like, I didn't realize these people were paying attention though. So therefore, if you're going to post this, like put yourself out there as a Christian of any form, or even as a Roman Catholic, trust me, be ready for crucifixion of mouth. Okay, using words. Be ready that you'll be held accountable for anything that you say or do. Even me putting myself on my platform as a Christian, I am always aware that I will be held accountable if I am ever to deviate or issue or ever to do anything in contrary. Therefore, I try my best to put up things that are okay. Okay, I try to also live that way in my own personal daily life, to my best ability anyways. But then I understand the portrayal that you will be given for someone else, because trust me, what the devil is just waiting to say is like, I told you, see that one, that Christian girl. So to make mockery of you and things like that. Therefore, I have to be careful about what I say and how I put things across, I guess, on my channel and other social media platforms. And everything that I do, I know if I'm able to be stood on trial, I'm able to defend. So that's why. Anyways, in universities, that was the issue that happened there. Okay. And then that question I didn't answer, because that question rigged me to the bone, I guess. It really went in deep. And because we were talking about, is this social politics we were looking at in that seminar. I couldn't answer that question. So I started seeking for answer for that question. And the answer, no one gave. I went to Pentecostal churches. I went to Pentecostal churches, and none of them could answer that question. I was shut down when I asked the question, because they didn't realize this question was actually eating up on my brain and then making me doubt whether this whole God thing or Christianity thing is real. And so if I'm saying anything here, it's that when someone asks you questions about their faith, whether you think they are coming from a negative or positive perspective, do your best to give them the ears to listen, because you don't know what they are going through. That question they are asking is a way of maintaining faith. It's a way of piecing things together. But I was shut down everywhere, left and right, both in the Catholic Church and also outside of the church. So no one chose to answer that question, or I was kind of disregarded, or the question was just looked away. Okay, so I realized at that point I have to start finding the reason for my faith. Other things happened along the way. Other questions got asked. Other things, people will put things in front of you about the church and stuff like that, to which I try to defend then. So coming up now, after university, we lived our life. We did a bit of modeling, we did a bit of things. I wasn't really thinking of faith then. But my mid-20s, it hit me that I have to find my faith. It hit me that I have to discover why am I proclaiming this thing that we call Christianity? Why am I proclaiming that Jesus is God? Why am I proclaiming all these things? Why am I believing in all these things that I'm being told? Is it my parents' faith? Is it my faith? So I started finding answers to my questions when I started reading the Bible. I asked myself, okay, what is going to make you feel closer to God? I said the Bible. I read the Bible. It was enlightening. It was great. It was like, oh my gosh, the Bible is the book of life. I remember I posted that on my one of my social media platforms. I was like, the Bible is the book of life. Oh my gosh, and this and that, and everyone was like, yeah, we know that. I was like, oh, maybe I'm discovering it. Okay, so that was my thing then. So I went into, I had read the Bible, but then I kind of dropped it because I got to the book of Psalms. I'm like, hello, who is this God? He hates, he punishes, he does this. And this is one thing you will discover about the Old Testament. It's like, you start asking, sorry, who is this God again? Did you say God is love? Let's think about that again. So there was, yeah, a lot of questions that I asked when I started reading the Bible. And then I think reading the Psalms made me close the Bible back because I couldn't understand. Although I read Psalm 51, which is still the Psalm I still read till today, it just didn't make sense now, because now I start asking questions. Why would he punish people? Why would this God kill? Why would this like questions, answers no one provided? I closed the Bible and never visited it again. In 2015 or so, I started watching more to YouTube a lot, and then I found a Christian motivator and things like that, and started looking into my life and things like that. I was like, okay. I think it's 2014 actually, that's a lie. Let's go back. 2014, I started joining a youth group, and this youth group was more of a it's a secular, well, it's not secular because most of the people that attended it were religious, but it was a secular group kind of thing. It's part of the local council youth group. And some of the questions they asked, I always remember, like, how about if you put the Bible into this? I bet this will make more sense. How about if you add God into this? Everything will make sense. And so, but whenever I answered those questions, some of the questions or things that were discussed, I always had this thing in my mind. How about if you add God to this? How about if you add God to that? And that desire led me to start a youth ministry. And we are still in it actually, 5 years on. So you started a youth ministry because I realized many young people have a lot of questions, and that time people were talking about young people in a wrong way, like young people of nowadays. I was like wondering who is helping them. There was, if you ask me, there will be several reasons why I started that youth ministry, and I went to my local church and started it, and that was to help them to build a better relationship with God, because what I discovered that in everything, what I was lacking was a relationship with God, and I was depending on other people to answer my questions. So I discovered that I had to answer those questions by myself and started looking for those answers. And how do you get to know God is one of the key things, or how do you get to know a person is one of the key things that I try to instill in these young people's minds, that in the same way you get to know a person is the same way you get to know God. And you will believe anything anyone says about the person if you do not know that person. But when you know this person, you've gotten to know their name, you've gotten to know what they like, what their dislikes, how they perform. All these things that you get to know about your friend or your family is the same way you get to know God. And that was my thing. I developed a program, sent it to my church, and I started a group. And that was it. And we are still in it. So that's how my faith journey was. And this is the thing I wanted you to take out from this, is that first of all, when you want to begin your Christian journey, excuse me, when you wish to begin your faith or start getting to know God more, allow the questions that you are asked or the doubts that you have, allow them to come through, but do not allow them to dismay you. Allow them to be asked, because this should be your motivation to find God. And this is why many people try and find God in trials, because now life is asking them questions that they themselves, in their own logic, as human we are, cannot answer. This is why you start finding who is the maker, who can answer the questions in life, because there's many deep questions that you have as a person that you need to answer, and the only person that can answer that for you is God. So start getting to know God in the same way you start getting to know your friends. Remember, you didn't build a best friend overnight. It's experiences that you two went through that made you stronger, and it's your experiences that you have gone through with God is what makes you stronger. As well as reading the Bible, pray the rosary if you're a Roman Catholic, rosary was one thing that drew me closer to God, because it was a reflection of Jesus' life on earth. So for me, hi guys, sorry, the my memory got full, and then just have to restart it. So talking about the rosary is the reflection of Jesus' life on earth. Every mystery talks about the things that Jesus went through. Sometimes can even use the sorrowful mystery to do Stations of the Cross, as that's simply all his journey in one mystery, really, or in one kind of rosary round. Okay, so also if you do wish to build your faith, sorry, the light has gone, I'm trying to use natural light, but if you do wish to build your faith, get yourself around people of God, because these are the people that will act as your advisors, counselors. You know how I mentioned about doubting, and then my parents and my auntie having a counter argument, and these are the people that will kind of remind you of God, love, and other things. And yes, it's important to know that God is love, God is God of war, God is God of hate, God does everything that human being does, and this is why we are human and was a mini God. God doesn't hate, but he punishes. So I don't know, but I just like to know that there is the fact that God is human, in that he experiences everything and he behaves almost like how we behave. So he loves, he gets angry, he fights, he does all those things. So don't let no one tell you that God is one way or the other. Please know that God is you, in you, and God is human. Okay, that's why I really believe in the message of Jesus Christ and that he's God himself, because I prefer to know that this person experienced it or I experienced than just having someone that I'd never met in my life, or someone that never experienced what I experienced. So this is why one of the reasons I keep to my Christianity, and so please share this video with others. Find yourself faith groups. I'm not joking, like attend church, or else the devil will have you for supper. Attend church, and before you attend church, read the Bible or whatever that is being taught that day. In the Roman Catholic Church, they publish it in advance, so that you're only building your faith or your knowledge with what the priests say. Communion with others, and just continue loving God the best you can, and keep praying for me, because I did, and others as well, and hopefully this Easter brings you closer to God. Again, the whole point is about building relationship with God. This is why the Catholic Church as a denomination will never help you. Any other Pentecostal, any other church that you go, they'll never help you. You have to help yourself. It's time you start becoming a passive believer and become an active one, and participate in the things of the church. You'll understand more as you go along, okay? Because they wouldn't reveal anything to you until you become part of them, okay? Do take care, and I hope this video will inspire you to start your faith journey, because faith is a journey, okay? Take care. Bye. Signing off. Talk soon.